I know what you're probably thinking right now. Here we go again, another video about the Jougan. But it's not as simple as it might seem at first glance. Today we're talking about Boruto Uzumaki's two eyes, specifically the Byakugan and the Jogan. But not in the usual surface level way, where we just list their abilities. I want to dig into what these eyes actually mean for the manga and the story as a whole. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and make sure you watch the video all the way through. That's the only way you'll really understand the idea behind these two eyes. In the very first episode of the anime, before the main story even begins, we're shown the future. A destroyed Konoha, a scar on Boruto's face, and a confrontation with Kawaki. Now let's break down the Byakugan, because here too, things aren't as straightforward as they seem. Most people who watch the original Naruto are used to thinking of the Byakugan as a tool of the Hyuga clan, one of the three great dojutsu, nearly 360-degree vision, the ability to see tenketsu points and shut down an opponent's chakra. Everything about it is documented in the databooks, and on the surface, it all seems clear. But I believe that the Byakugan we see in Boruto during his second stage karma state is something fundamentally different. Karma functions as a compressed genetic backup of an Otsutsuki. As the Otsutsukification process progresses, Boruto's body is literally being rewritten, his biology replaced with Momoshiki's. And the Byakugan that manifests in his right eye isn't some dormant Hyuga gene finally awakening. It's Momoshiki's Byakugan. And that's a crucial distinction, because a true Otsutsuki's Byakugan doesn't work the same way as Shinobi's does. Remember the moment after Boruto's first fight with Momoshiki, when he looks at him and says, "Those blue eyes will take everything from you." That's not just a dramatic villain line, it's a direct expression of his Byakugan's ability. The power to read someone's fate. Not just seeing multiple possible outcomes, but identifying the real inevitable path. In the Naruto databooks, this aspect was never attributed to regular Hyuga members, because they were never anywhere close to that level. But Momoshiki is a 1,000-year-old hunter who's been consuming chakra fruits his entire existence. His Byakugan sits somewhere on the edge of Shinjutsu, not just a hereditary technique. And this is where I want to say something a lot of people probably won't agree with. The author's silence around the true nature of the Jougan isn't a weakness in the writing. It's because the Jougan is the only power in this universe that fundamentally resists classification, and that's exactly what makes it so interesting. Look at how it works in the anime canon. During the Nue arc, Boruto sees dark chakra distorted like a void that even Hinata with her flawless Byakugan can't detect. In encounters with Urashiki, he notices spatial distortions before portals even begin to form. He identifies the core of a threat, not in a biological sense, but as the key vulnerability that can shift the entire balance of a fight. This isn't vision in the traditional sense. It's perception on the level of reality itself and the concept of conflict. And in the very first chapter of the manga, the same future scene, the eye is drawn without the characteristic activation veins of the Byakugan. For anyone who followed Naruto in real time, that's a detail you can't ignore. Hyuga always activate the Byakugan with those veins. It's been a consistent part of their biology for over a decade of storytelling, which means this is a different eye. And logically, that points to the Jougan. There are several theories, and each one has its own appeal. The one I like most is the idea of genetic resonance. Boruto may be the first person in history to carry both major lineages of Kaguya Otsutsuki's descendants in such a concentrated form. Hinata carries the Byakugan of Hamura's line, the branch that went on to guard the moon. These two bloodlines have never merged like this before, through an ordinary shinobi family and the birth of a new generation. And maybe the Jougan is the result of that fusion. Not a new technique, not a random mutation, but a return to the source, a proto-dojutsu that existed before the Otsutsuki powers split into the Byakugan, Sharingan, and Rinnegan. That wouldn't just make it powerful, it would make it the original code behind the entire eye-tech system. Think about it. Momoshiki can read the true fate of others through his Byakugan, but his own future is inaccessible to him. That's his fundamental weakness, his blind spot. Meanwhile, Boruto's Jogan can perceive distortions in space and time, and anticipate movements before the opponent is even aware of them. What if combining these two eyes, Momoshiki's analytical Byakugan and Boruto's intuitive Jogan, creates a being that can read others' destinies while remaining impossible to track through any shift or variation? That's not just theory for the sake of theory, it's a logical extension of what the authors have already built into the story. I think everyone should take another look at chapter 55 of the manga. There's a panel showing the Otsutsuki god the being Shibai became after achieving complete transcendence, leaving behind the physical body and even dimensions themselves. This entity is surrounded by countless eyes, and those eyes with their black sclera look visually identical to the Jougan. The authors have already shown us what this eye could become, they just haven't explained how we get there. The name Jogan translates to pure eye, but the kanji used are identical to those in Jodo, a Buddhist concept, referring to the Pure Land, a kind of paradise or dimension beyond the ordinary world. If the authors chose those characters intentionally, and Kishimoto has always been very deliberate with symbolism, then the ultimate form of this ability might involve altering the very nature of reality. That's why Toneri Otsutsuki calls the Jogan the Star of Hope, not metaphorically, but as a literal tool capable of breaking a system that has existed for thousands of years. In Two Blue Vortex, Boruto clearly shows a much higher level of control over his abilities. He's learned to use karma in a way no one before him could, and based on the story's trajectory, he's moving toward consciously using both eyes, the Byakugan for tactical awareness and battlefield reading, and the Jogan for understanding the deeper forces shaping everything around him. I'll be honest, this is what keeps me hooked on the story more than anything else. Not the fights, even though they're great. Not the nostalgia for the original Naruto, even though that's definitely there. It's one specific question the authors are asking. Is it possible to change what's already been decided? Here's my personal advice. If you're rereading the manga or rewatching the anime, don't focus on what the Jougan shows focus on when it activates. It doesn't trigger in response to physical danger. It reacts to something more fundamental, dark intent distortions in space, the presence of something that shouldn't exist in the shinobi world. It's like a lie detector for reality itself. Watch those activation moments through that lens, and the story will start telling you something completely different. Now, I've got a question for you. What do you think, is the Jougan its own independent dojutsu, or will it turn out to be an evolution of the Byakugan? And do you think Boruto will unlock both eyes at the same time in the final battle? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you think. And don't forget to subscribe, because there's a lot more interesting content coming your way.